Hey Stampers, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I wanted to show you a, I don't know, kind of combination spin on an old new card. I found this card idea on Pinterest and it's a beautiful card. However, I did not have any layering circle dies because I don't have them any longer. A lot of times when new products come out or we discontinue stuff, we as demonstrators usually will sell it because we have to pay for the next thing that we're going to get, or maybe we're just moving on to something new. So instead, I actually subbed it out with a die set that some people may find a little confusing to use. These are called the all around it dies, and you can see they are not circular. They're kind of crazy. I think they really are pretty cool looking for maybe if you wanted to do tree rings, or I did a card quite some time ago that was like This Stinks, and it was an onion. So you could cut these layers and layer them together, and it would look like a realistic onion that isn't perfectly oval shaped. Lots of other things you could do with it, but we're actually, so let me see, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th and 6th largest of these. And I just kind of lined them up. They don't have to be perfect, but those will cut out. Let's see if it's going the right direction. Probably here-ish. Yeah, these will cut out this little part that goes around it, and that's just cut from Very Vanilla, which is not a color I use very often. And this actually is a double opening card. This uses the Perennial Lavender DSP, which I'm so happy actually is going to carry over into the next new catalog. So in case you didn't know, now you know. Also the Country Woods paper is carrying over, and there's one more. I'm trying to think what it is. I can't remember right at the moment, but so that's really exciting. At least we have some paper. This paper is wildly popular, which is probably why it's staying. However, one thing I'm using today, and maybe you have something that you could use, this is the Lighting the Way bundle. This is long retired, but it's a really pretty set. I like it a lot just because it's, I don't know, it's whimsical. It reminds you of like spring, summer, that kind of thing. So I actually cased this design, and again, I will give the person credit. I can't recall who it is right now, but I tried kind of fooling around with this inside part. This is something from a vellum that we currently have, or maybe the greenery, Graceful Greenery. It's just a piece of that. You could use any vellum, and all you're doing is just putting some yellow on it and sandwiching it in between two of these die cut lanterns. The lanterns are from a, oh, what is this stuff called? It was a patterned, here it is. I don't even know if I have the what it's called, but it was a green, then there was a blue, and then there's kind of like a sparkly champagne. You can feel, it's ribbed, whatever this paper is. It's some sort of a specialty paper, but I can't remember. But anyway, I cut two of these out. One of them I put adhesive sheet on, and the other one I didn't because it was easier to stick together that way. So I did do some of the stuff ahead of time. I also die cut a bunch of these little fireflies out of the same paper. And it helps if you put adhesive on the back because it makes it a little bit easier. You could also, if you have a really, really tiny, these are wobblers. If you had a really tiny wobbler, you could probably put one on, but they're pretty small. So I don't really know if that necessarily would or would it work. And then the other thing that I use, I'm fairly certain these are still current, are the faux sea glass shapes. Hopefully, I don't know. They could be at the end now if they're on the next or last chance list. But these I just kind of added around because I thought they were cute. You can also use a little white gel pen to add your little dot trails of where your lightning bugs are flying, and I did that here, but I also put a little bit of dotting. So this card is not terrifically difficult. It just does have a few steps. So I'm going to try to make this as easy as I can. So for the lantern, I have one that I already so I'll show you. I already put together. I actually just put a piece of vellum under it to try to get it to go. And then this one is just one extra piece. So you would need one plain piece and then one piece that you put adhesive sheet on the back, and it just makes it easier to stick the two of them together. They are mirror images, so when you line them up, they do line up absolutely perfectly. The only thing that's showing through on this, excuse me, is the vellum because I didn't trim it. So this one is the one we'll use today, but you probably would want to use a little piece. This is from This is the die punch. Where is it? It's a 1-inch circle punch. So anything that's about 1 inch, you could even go to 1 1/4 maybe. Sorry, I got tickle. I don't know if it's allergies or what, but 1 1/4 if you have something that's not exact. It's just that you want it to stay inside the frame of this, so it looks more realistic. So that's what I use for that. And then I have some fireflies. So we're going to try to make this, not that it's going to take too long, but I do want to show you the die cutting for this. So we have a little packet here. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So the base of this is Blackberry Bliss. Okay, that is a regular card base. So 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then you have a piece of basic beige, and this is a color that you might not see terrifically often, just because it's one of those colors that unless you know it's there, you don't really know to look for it. So this one is actually going to be your inside panel. So you're going to have a panel here and a panel here, and then we're going to cut a hole in the front. I also added in, I have this little, what was this for? Who knows? Something extra. I don't really know. Oh, this is for these. Jeez, Rach, get your act together. Let me see what this measures, because this was a little bit larger than those two dies laid together. It's 3 3/4 square. And if you lay this on, just like that, it is tight, but it does fit because I was just trying to conserve paper like always. And then you're going to die cut this and it will make that little edge. But you also have another piece in the middle you could save for another craft. Then you're going to have your little layering piece that's going to go on top of this. This one is the one where you can stamp your little dots in the background to kind of make it a little bit more decorative. I will have all the measurements for this on the blog, so there's no need to really follow. This is 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so that's going to layer on here. And I didn't tell you what this one was. Let me go back just a second. This is 8 by 5 1/4. And it's scored at 4. Okay, so 8 scoring at 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, then I just have some little scraps. This is what I use to make the sentiment that's going to help hold it into place. So let's get started. And I'm going to do the die cutting first, and then we'll go from there. So with the die cutting, you are going to need to cut this, but then you're also going to have to go back and cut your hole in here, okay? And you're going to want to do that with the smaller of the two circles, all right? So I'm going to put this on first. This, everything else, like I said, I already have this, so we're just going to use that. I already have these cut, so I'm not going to try not to make it take too long. And going to, once you pull this piece off, so that's really all that's wasted, which isn't too much. You could save this for another project if you need a circle for something. And then here is your little piece that's going to layer onto the front. Now, if you take these apart, it's going to be a little bit different, but honestly, it doesn't really make a difference. And then because I did this over and over again, what I did is I just popped this out. I left the tape on because we did this for Stamp Club just to make it easier. So I just left that tape on there, and then I'm going to just put this approximately where I think. Now, there's not really a way to line it up perfectly, and I really don't think you need to. You just kind of want to go for somewhat centered, and then just put some Post-it tape or washi or some sort of repositionable tape so you can cut it. And you kind of want it to be just a little bit down so you can still attach it, and then enough from the bottom. So eyeballing it, nothing specific. Okay, and that should be all the die cutting that we have to do for this, because I did most of everything else. And then same thing, you have another little something you could use for something. Maybe I'll find a use for these circles for something in the future. And then what I'm going to do is, because I do have a couple other cards, I'm going to just kind of lay this in approximately where I think it will look nice. It doesn't have to be exact, because they're definitely not exacting dies since they're not really circular. So that way I'll redo those later. So we have our face. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use liquid glue. And we're going to glue this onto here. You can line it up if you want, just so it kind of follows the path. Again, doesn't really have to be perfect. You're going to cover some of it up regardless. So we'll kind of go with here. What I found is if you find a place that you like it, lay it down, then grab your glue. So if I'm thinking this point is to the bottom, and then I'm just going to flip it over and add some glue. A fine tip is really important for this because it's not super thick. And I like the Barely Art glue just because it really sticks well, it holds well, and it does have a great tip. So you can see there's a little bit of purple showing here, but I'm not really too concerned. It's fine. And I got a little glue in there, but that's okay. So if it is something that bothers you and you do want it precisely lined up, just take your time when you do it. But we're going to close this, and we do want to make sure that we really reinforce our folds. Now, one thing I should have told you to do, which I forgot before you get started, is to do any of your stamping. So I have, and this might be really hard to see because it's such a dark color, I have just these little dots. So I'm going to just grab that and we're going to just stamp those randomly. It's just kind of like this little trail, like stardust of dots. So I'm going to do these on the front, and I'm also going to do them on here. And we're doing tone 1 tone, so it'll be Blackberry Bliss. And if you haven't used your Blackberry Bliss in some time, definitely make sure you ink it up because, whoopsie, that was almost a catastrophe. It looks so much better if it's dark because you can just see it that much better. All right, and then I'm going to do the same here. Now, this is 2 different pieces, so it really just depends on what you want. I kind of really went crazy with these and put them all over. Really, it's up to your preference. If you want to have them all over the place, they could also be the butterflies that they're flying. Really doesn't make any particular difference of where you do it. So that looks pretty good. And then this is going to get layered onto this base. So let me set this to the side. So this is going to go on here. And you remember they're opening opposite of each other, okay? So I'm going to put some glue here. When I saw that this was one of the papers, because I ordered this because I figured it would be going out of stock once the catalog was coming to an end, because a lot of things that are super popular don't last really long once they announce the last chance list, which will not be announced, I don't believe it is until the end of March, so probably in the next couple days. But I ordered this because I love this paper. It is really such a pretty paper. There have been a couple papers that we've had over the years that have carried over. It is very, very rare that something will carry over because they like to have new, fresh stuff. But sometimes there are papers that are really just so popular they end up staying, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to just put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of these. And we'll just kind of put a couple of these right there. You can even put the glue on your paper directly if you wanted to instead. I think a couple of these do have adhesive on them and a couple of them don't. Now you may notice that I did already put a little bit of yellow onto the butts of these, so that's up to you. So I did one on that one. We'll do those 2 and call it a day. So I'm going to just take this, where's my bone folder? I'm going to just make sure this is really nicely creased. And the nice part is, since this is light, you have a great spot to write. You don't have to add a white part to it. So that's super helpful. And then this panel is going to go in here. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm going to go ahead and put my lantern on. Now, again, if I was being super anal, I could trim this out a little bit because this was my tester. I actually put a whole piece in and just trimmed it, but for sake of doing this, we're going to leave it just as it is. I am going to use some twine. It's gold twine. It's probably really super old, but I'm sure we have something that you can find in there if you want to replace it, or maybe you, like me, have quite a lot of ribbon and you can find something. What I did is I trimmed this off and just put it in a super kind of loose, I don't want to say country, but just like a very loose, non-fancy bow. I might have cut this a little too short. Let's see. My fingers are not what they used to be. And if this is also a problem that you have and you maybe have tied it a little bit too short, you could either make yourself a faux bow, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best at making this. I was going to say just a little knot, and then doing one after. Another thing that I have found that people do that is really helpful too is by using a pair of reverse tweezers to hold. And I think I'm going to attempt that. Where is my little... Oh. I can feel them in there. Can't find them. So what I'm going to do is you're going to take your knot and you just get your reverse tweezer. Is like your third hand, and then I'll knot this like that. Take this off, pull it tight, and then let's see if I can somehow magically make my bow. If not, this one is going to just be a regular fuzzy. I probably should have cut, yeah, a little bit longer. So this one's going to be like this. We're going to have this one be different, which is fine. And I'm going to just trim this, because that's what we do in the real world. Now, you do or don't. It's up to you. If you want to put a little glue there, you can. But I am going to put a little bit of glue at the bottom here, and then this little strip we're going to create is going to hold it in place. So usually what I do is I kind of eyeball where I think it's supposed to be, where I want it to be, and then I just put a little bit of glue right like that. And I'm going to put a block on here just to hold that in place. In the meantime, we're going to take a piece of, just a scrap piece of, and look how much ribbon I have. I totally could have made this so much longer. I was just being cheap. See, sometimes that's what you get for being cheap. I'm going to just take my white craft ink and I'm going to stamp "Thanks for lighting the way." And then what you can do, it's your choice if you want to do this, is you can use your white embossing powder and heat set it, and it will be a little bit more, I don't want to say vivid, but it's a little bit more stark of a contrast with the white once it dries. So you can see it's a little bit light there. So if you want to do that, what you'll do is grab your white embossing powder. Again, I use my good old standby coffee filters. I'm going to lift this up and just give that a little sprinkle. Grab that, tap off. So it's much better, and then once we heat it, it will be even darker. In case I never told you, or maybe you are new here, embossing powder was my gateway drug to stamping. When I saw people do heat embossing, that really blew my mind, and that was all she wrote. I had to get in more on that, and here I am now, many years later. Now what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm just going to plug in my heat tool and crank it up to high. Now, Stampin' Up makes a heat tool, or you can buy one from craft stores. I had a different brand one for a while. I got this one as a second one. My different brand one lasted a really long time. I love it. This one is great. I love it. It does have two heat settings. Number one is if you're drying ink on something, so you can tell it's a little bit lower. Number two is if you're heat embossing, but you still want to let it really heat up before you use it. You cannot use a hair dryer. You have to use a heat tool. A hair dryer is not hot enough to set embossing powder, in case you wondered. And then what you're going to do is just going to move it back and forth. And you'll notice the powder starting to become shiny. And that means it is set. Okay, you don't want to hold it still for too long because it can singe it, and then you'll have yellow white, which is just not as pretty, and it does burn your fingers, so make sure you keep your hands out of the way. Okay, and one other thing, you do not want to make sure it's melted by touching it with your finger because it will stick to your finger and it really hurts. So you're just going to kind of hold it sideways and you'll see most of it is shiny. You can tell in person, you probably cannot see on here, but if there's a part that kind of still looks dusty, it needs to be heated a little bit longer. Okay, if you have powder that does not stick very well, as you notice, I did not use my embossing buddy to cut down on the static. You typically do want to do that, especially if you're in the winter and it's dry. But if your powder doesn't heat, it could just be that it's old. And that does happen because, you know, everything doesn't last forever. So if you're noticing that you're heating stuff and it's just not looking crisp or it's not really fully shiny in all the spots, you probably just need to get a new powder. So I'm going to just take this and I'm going to cut it just a little bit. And let's see, so that's pretty straight. I'm just kind of trying to follow the words. And I'm going to just cut this on an angle because I'm feeling fancy, and then cut this straight. So this will be straight. I'm going to cut that just a little bit closer. And this is going to basically just hold the bottom of our lantern in place. Okay, so this is glued, but this just makes it look a little bit nicer. Like that. Now it doesn't have to be precise, and actually I think I probably glued this one a little bit crooked, but that's okay. So I'm going to grab some liquid glue and I'm going to glue this on. And I'm going to line it to the edge just because I think it looks nicer that way. So you have something anchoring it. And then I have a couple of these guys. Now I did notice, I told you that these have a little bit of yellow and these I did not. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab just a little bit of, I'm pretty sure I used Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to grab my blending brush and I'm going to just pounce on them. That's good. Okay. And then these, I am fairly certain I put adhesive sheet on the back. Yep, so I'm going to just peel that off, which makes these into instant stickers. So we'll put one here. Careful because the yellow is probably still a little bit wet. Because this is not a porous paper, it does take a little bit more for it to dry. And one here. And then, where did she sneak off to? Here is one of my Jelly Roll pens. These are the only pens that I've ever found that actually do produce white almost every single time you use them. But, so if you have something that you think works better, by all means. That's what we're going to do for that. I do store these though tipped down. I find that it keeps them a little bit better in the working. And then I'm going to glue this. Make sure these are pretty set. I think I even put some black on those. I'm going to put some glue on here and we're going to adhere this, and then we'll put our little gems on to finish. I know this was a little bit longer of a card, but we got a couple techniques in here. We did double die cutting to make a very thin border. We did heat embossing with white, which is always fun. Had a little bit of coloring on DSP with our stamps. We added some color to specialty paper. The other thing I did on this one was I just added a little something to the inside. So just like a little something. I thought it was nice with the tone on tone. And then finally, let me just do this one more time so it behaves. We're going to add those little gems, and they are the faux sea glass shapes. Hopefully these are still in stock. I used the tiny ones because I thought they were more appropriate. Yeah, do I not have a little Where's my take your pick? My take your pick is like such on the end of its lifespan here. So I just used the tiny ones and kind of stuck just a couple around. Come on, bugger. There you go. Pardon me. And there you have it. Let me move these out of the way so you can see what they look like finished. I think adorable. And again, this was definitely a different card because of not having the circles that the lady who stamped this originally and designed it had. Layering circles is a really, really cute idea, but then I thought, oh, I don't have those, so we had to pivot and find something new. So a lot of these products that I'm using, aside from the Light Your Way stamp set, you probably will be able to find on the clearance, or now it is called the last chance list. So basically, instead of having clearance, they're putting everything on last chance as it's available. So some of it will be discounted. Some of it is just on there to tell you that it is not going to be available any longer. Like, it's not carrying into any future catalogs or online productions. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I know that this was something that was talked about, that they originally were going to discontinue the thick 8.5 by 11 basic white paper. However, they have since realized how useful it is to all card makers. So they are going to carry it, but you will not find it in the new 2025-26 annual catalog. It is going to be online only, but it will be there. And they do offer it as in 12 by 12 as well. So I have not seen the catalog yet, but what I want to mention is just the fact of, if there's something that you don't see in the catalog, for them saving space in the catalog, what supposedly is going to happen is there's going to be a lot more stuff in the online exclusives. So you will have to look online, which I know a lot of people don't like to look online. I understand. If there is a list that I can somehow compile of things that are on the online exclusives, what I'll do is see if I can make an Excel worksheet of things that people use all the time that maybe just can't be found. And I will try to post that to my blog as a page that is up all the time and try to share that on my social media as well. So be bearing with us as we transition, because they did change a lot of things back in the catalog that are supposed to be a little bit more user-friendly. It should be easier to find stuff. Things will be grouped together, which is helpful. And they also took the advice of things that are in the online store. And I'm going to just show you really quickly. They are showing you, and this is something that would be super helpful to anyone who's buying something. They are going to show you things that would go together. So for example, if you were looking at this tags to go bundle, it's going to show you that it includes this, and they will show you it's part of a certain suite. Oh, that was so fast. Sorry. It's part of a certain suite and collection. That way, maybe it'll be a little bit easier to find products that might go with other products. So for example, if you went to the tags to go bundle, which I did get, this is really cute. It will also say it includes this. It includes the stamp set and it includes the dies. So then you decide to go to the dies and it says this product is a part of, and it tells you all the different suites. There's French, obviously. There's a bundle. There's a suite. So hopefully that will find us a little bit better in being able to find products online and find things easier to use. So the basic white thick is back in stock. It was out of stock for a little bit, but they do show that back in stock again. So as with all catalogs, there is going to be a little price increase with some of the products, paper specifically. So if you're looking to save money, you probably would want to shop sooner than later. I think they said the prices will not go into effect until the new catalog is released. So as long as you are buying products now before the new catalog goes live, you'll be covered with the current price. If you have any questions about any of this, I know that's a lot of information, but I'm trying to keep you informed as we go along. Please feel free to send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com, or you can also just comment below on this video. I do read all the comments on here. If you like this project and this technique and any other things that you would like to see done, if I have it and we're adding old in with new, you know, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm happy to work with something if I have it. If you haven't already, I would love for you to like, subscribe, follow, and share this with all of your friends who might be interested in this. And I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful day.